DC Comics have put themselves in quite the pickle in the early to mid part of 2024. No real excitement, enthusiasm. I think a lot of people have just kind of checked out of DC Comics. We've got DC Absolute Power coming right up, and nobody cares. Nobody's invested in the book, despite having Dan Moore, one of the great comic book artists DC still feature on a regular basis, as well as Mark Waid, who in the past has done some great stuff, especially at DC. You know, he does have Kingdom Come on the resume. He's got one of the best Flash runs of all time. And his Batman Superman World's Finest is probably the best comic book in the industry still. I haven't been reading it because Mark Waid is an asshole. I don't think that's the reason people have tuned out. I think it's so bad across the board that there just isn't a whole lot to invest in. And DC Comics are gearing up for an enormous San Diego Comic-Con 2024. They're going to be putting out all the bells and whistles, trying to launch the Absolute Universe, as well as whatever is going on around that. I'm starting to get the impression or feeling that maybe Absolute Universe is going to be like in continuity or something really stupid. It feels like they're very, very desperate. They're like, well, what do we do? We got to get Scott Snyder on a Batman book. Even though Scott Snyder said he would never write Batman again, that Last Night was his last Batman book of all times. That is clearly not the case. I think he was going to justify it by doing it in the Absolute Universe. Perhaps it will still be separate in DC All In, or whatever it is that they're about to embark on, where we're rebooting Nightwing. It looks like we're rebooting Batman. It looks like we're rebooting Action Comics, Detective Comics. There's a bunch of stuff, and I would imagine Flash as well. There's a bunch of stuff rebooting right around the corner, all at the same time, and Absolute Universe will be at the heart of it. And I've been talking about the creators I've heard are on Absolute Universe. Scott Snyder on Batman, Jason Aaron on Superman, and Al Ewing on Wonder Woman. Apparently, other people are claiming there's another name out there besides Al Ewing. Bleeding Cool has put together a first list of names they heard from industry sources regarding who might be working on Absolute Universe. The following names have come from senior comic industry sources, according to Bleeding Cool, but things can and probably will change. Scott Snyder is on Absolute Universe Batman. Jason Aaron is on Absolute Universe Superman. And Kelly Thompson is on Absolute Universe Wonder Woman. So for the most part, I got it right, except for the Kelly Thompson on the Wonder Woman thing. Scott Snyder on Batman, no brainer. Scott Snyder's had some good books out there and successful books, but he's never ever come close to reaching the success that he's had with Batman. So I'm not surprised that they want to put those two together once again. Jason Aaron, really synonymous with Marvel Comics, stopped working there full-time exclusive at the end of last year. We see he's been doing Batman Off-World. He's doing the TMNT reboot. He's doing a little bit of work at Marvel, and it appears that his first real big opportunity is Absolute Universe Superman, and then Kelly Thompson on Wonder Woman. That is just really strange. Like, I get Scott Snyder, and I kind of get Jason Aaron, and I kind of got, to a degree, Al Ewing, even though Scott Snyder and Jason Aaron have much more in common when it comes to their writing style and what they like to do with their universe and stuff like that. At least Al Ewing could come along for the ride and be a contributor, like a name that doesn't turn people off. Kelly Thompson is not that. I wish I could say I was shocked. I almost said I was shocked, but I'm not shocked because it is DC Comics. It is the comic book universe in 2024, and this is the Scott Snyder that introduced Max Versace to DC Comics all those years ago. So he's not exactly the world's most renowned eye for talent. You know, he did discover a couple of people, you know, the big ones being Josh Williamson, I guess, Phil Kennedy Johnson, are some of the bigger names that came out of that first batch. But he also discovered Vina Allen and Max Versace with some just really, really awful writers. I think maybe for some reason, I think Erica Schultz was in there too, but I might be wrong on that one. Don't hold me to that one. Scott Snyder, not a great eye for talent. I don't think he really has his finger on the pulse of the comic book reading community. You know, Kelly Thompson just had her biggest success really of her entire career with Scarlet #1. When you just look at the orders, right? Lots of orders. I think it was close to 100,000 orders for Scarlet #1. But she also exposed herself as just being Kelly Thompson. She's certainly not a G.I. Joe writer. She's not really a superhero comic book writer. She's just Kelly Thompson, and she writes the same story over and over again. And I don't know why you would put her on Absolute Wonder Woman. And I do think the premise, or at least the one that I've been told for this Wonder Woman book, could be all right. Basically, Wonder Woman as Indiana Jones or Laura Croft just going out there and finding relics and things of the old world and discovering them and archiving them and stuff like that, probably putting them on Themyscira, could be perfectly fine. Wonder Woman as an adventure isn't the worst concept in the world. It's certainly a better concept than Absolute Universe Batman. Bruce Wayne in name only, but he's not really Bruce Wayne because he's got no money and all that kind of stuff. He's just real young and he's real athletic. I would say the Absolute Universe Superman is the furthest thing from the real character, to where Superman isn't going to arrive on Earth until he's already a young man. I believe he's going to be like 18 or 19. So we're going to remove the humanity from Superman, which is the defining characteristic of Superman. Like, Superman really is the power set, but the hero is Clark Kent. It's his upbringing, it's his morals, it's being grounded in humanity that makes him the greatest, most enduring superhero in American history. But we're just going to remove that because without that, he'll be more interesting, according to Scott Snyder and Jason Aaron. I profoundly disagree on that one. But my biggest disagreement on all this, and I do believe, according to my sources, it's Al Ewing, but I guess it very well could be Kelly Thompson, because Marvel and DC have been trying to make Kelly Thompson a thing for like a decade now. Never has been a thing. She did have one hit, I guess, with Scarlet #1, but I think everyone figured out after reading that comic book, she's just not very good. What does that book have to do with Scarlet? What does that book have to do with anything? She's just making shit up. And I understand it's a reboot and you're trying to redefine the rules, motivations, and relationships and everything in there, but Kelly Thompson clearly had never read a G.I. Joe comic book, never seen a G.I. Joe cartoon, probably never even seen the movies, because she had no fucking clue what she was doing. And I don't think it'll get better with Absolute Universe Wonder Woman. So there's a good chance that they're going to break this before it ever even launches, because Kelly Thompson is a warning sign that you might not want to invest in this new universe, because it's going to suck, or at least a third of it is right out the gate. Of course, DC Comics are going to be doing a little bit more than just announcing the creative teams for the push for Absolute Universe at San Diego Comic-Con. Comic book retailers received a note from DC Comics via Diamond Comic Distributors. DC is to provide a San Diego Comic-Con 2024 exclusive Absolute Universe Ash Can Special Edition next month for San Diego Comic-Con, and exhibiting comic book stores will be provided with promotional Ash Cans for the new line to share with their customers, or maybe not. There is also word that is not 100% accurate, and that DC are not launching an Absolute Universe, and that comic book stores will not be getting free bundles of Ash Cans. So that was pretty confusing. It seems like they would want to do something like having Ash Cans with little short previews of Absolute Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, and putting them front and center with all the vendors that are there to actually sell comic books would be pretty smart. That way it's literally everywhere, and providing free copies is a pretty good idea. Let them sell them, all that kind of stuff. But maybe they're not doing it. You know what I find weird about this reporting? This is also reporting from Bleeding Cool, is they said it's provided by Diamond Comic Distributors. Diamond Comic is not even like a reseller for DC Comics. They still are for Marvel, but they're not for DC. DC is exclusive to Lunar. Like, why would they be going through Diamond to notify comic book stores about this? Although there's like a typeface and it looks official or whatever. So this one, probably there's got to be some truth to it, right? It is going to be called Absolute Universe. At least that's what we've been told. It kind of sounds like the right name. The word absolute is associated with DC Comics. The word universe will let you know that it's an alternate shared continuity within DC Comics with their characters, but a different take on them, just like the Ultimate Universe. But I don't know why Diamond Comic Distributors would have been the one to get the word out, or even be the ones distributing them out to comic book vendors that wanted to participate in this. So it is a little bit confusing, but I imagine they will be doing lots of stuff at San Diego Comic-Con. That DC Comics think that Marvel is undervaluing San Diego Comic-Con and they aren't going to have a huge presence there, at least in the foreseeable future, and they want to take it over. And of course, if DC Comics want to own San Diego Comic-Con, they're going to have to do something big, and it feels like DC All In with the Absolute Universe launches would be pretty big. But then, you only get the press releases from like Newsarama, the Popverse, maybe Comic Speed. Nobody reads that stuff. No one's going to be paying attention. And Ash Can makes a whole lot of sense. You get it out there. All the vendors are having it. It's right there in front of all the customers. And what happens? You get the flippers or whatever. They go when they grab them something, they throw it on eBay. It becomes the hottest selling Ash Can in the history of comic books. And maybe there's a little bit of buzz about Absolute Universe, because I do believe, despite my cold indifference to modern day Scott Snyder. I do think he's lost it. I don't think he's anywhere near as creative or interesting as he used to be as a comic book writer. He does still have an audience, especially when he's writing Batman. I think people will be more excited for Absolute Universe Batman, at least initially, than anything else at DC Comics. I also think people will be excited for Absolute Universe Superman, potentially more interest than anything at DC Comics, including the mainline in continuity Batman series. So this is probably a big play. I don't think there will be a lot of interest in Kelly Thompson on Absolute Universe Wonder Woman, but it'll certainly be more substantial than anything else they're doing. I thought there for a moment, I was thinking, like, what are they doing? They don't want to call it Absolute Universe. Perhaps this information is correct. Maybe they're trying to fold in Absolute Universe into like the mainline continuity. Perhaps they change the ending to Absolute Power, where all this is going to be rolling out of, which is where they're supposed to discover this alternate universe that's going to introduce these different versions of the heroes. Maybe they replace the mainline Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, but I don't think that works because, well, while it does appear that they're going to be replacing Chip Zdarsky on Batman soon, Josh Williamson has made no indication that he's leaving Superman. In fact, recently he said he was sticking around on Superman for the long haul, and I don't think they're just going to remove Tom King on Wonder Woman, despite how poorly I think that comic book is. So maybe they have another name for it. Maybe that was the technicality to where they said, yeah, we're not calling it Absolute Universe. Maybe it's Absolute something else. Absolute Galaxy. Maybe they want to use a different synonym for universe. So it's not just like Ultimate Universe, it's something else. Maybe it's Absolute Galaxy. And that was the technical faux pas that they were correcting when they put that information out there about the Ash Can. I imagine there is an Ash Can. I don't think Diamond are going to be distributing it, but I could be wrong on that one. Maybe they are working with Diamond now, which it seemed like they didn't want to do anymore after they fucked him over during the pandemic. Finally, we also have indications from Scott Snyder that something is brewing. In his latest newsletter for Best Jacket Press, he said, I've been gearing up, like I said on Twitter, for some big announcements next month. So I'm trying to kind of lay low a little bit this month, just enjoy the quiet, hang out with the family and friends. So it appears Scott Snyder does realize we are in the calm before the storm. He'll likely be at San Diego Comic-Con for all these big announcements. They're already starting to line up the DC Comics panels. I think one of them is like new DC reads or something. Maybe that's where he'll be at. But we're going to hear about Absolute Universe or whatever else they're actually going to call it. I do think there'll be an Ash Can. Scott Snyder will be on Batman. I'm 100% convinced Jason Aaron will be on Superman. And I still believe it's going to be Al Ewing and not Kelly Thompson. I still, for reasons I do not know, I still have faith that nobody is stupid enough to put Kelly Thompson on the opening salvo of a brand new universe that should be successful, whether it's good or not. At least initially, it doesn't even have to be good. It just feels different. And that in and of itself will likely garner interest and enthusiasm unless you see a name like Kelly Thompson. Although Jason Aaron himself could be a bit of a turnoff, but he certainly has a much bigger reading audience. And I do think his Batman Offworld has kind of eased the sting of some of the stuff he did on Punisher and other works at Marvel Comics that were really bad, especially that Avengers run. That Avengers run was shit. It was really, really bad. So interesting stuff. Big push coming at San Diego Comic-Con. We've talked about this in the past, but there's a new name out there associated with Absolute Universe. It's Kelly Thompson, and I'm crossing my fingers that is not the case. But perhaps I won't even need to read Absolute Universe Wonder Woman, because after reading Scarlet, why even pay attention to Kelly Thompson? If you like more conversations about comic books and breaking news and all that kind of stuff, but in longer format, you can only do so much here on the YouTubes, but on the Patreon, I got free reign to do whatever I want. We can go 2.5, 3 hours, talk about comic books, comic book movies, TV shows, all that kind of stuff, all the fun nerd debates that you're looking for. If you haven't checked out Thinking Critical Patreon and you would like to support me and what we're doing here on the YouTube, there's a link in the video description to go check that out and have some fun with us.